I'm here to tell you some truths about gender and sex that you may find surprising. I certainly did. In addition to what we normally talk about, there's this group called Intersex, and rather than describe it in its full definition, I want to do this by telling a story about an individual so you can see what the person goes through. Today I want to tell you the story about a guy, we'll call him Tim. Nice one-syllable name rather than any kind of online handle. Now Tim, when he was an adult, found out from his mother that he was intersex. Kind of took him by surprise. He'd gone through his whole life not knowing this. You may be asking, what is intersex? Well, it's somewhere between male and female in a physical standpoint. It's one of a number of conditions in a physical way. UC Davis describes it like this. It is an umbrella term to describe a wide range of natural body variations that do not fit neatly into conventional definitions of male or female. Intersex variations may include, but are not limited to, variations in chromosome composition, hormone concentrations, and external and internal characteristics. Many people who are visibly intersex are mutilated in infancy and early childhood by doctors to make their sex characteristics conform to society's idea of what normal bodies should look like. Now, as Tim, well, the best way to tell Tim's story is chronologically. So let's go way back to how he pieced it together at his birth. Much like many in America, Tim was born in a hospital. In his case, his father was overseas serving his tour of duty in the military. When he was born there in that military hospital, the doctor raised him up and said, "It's a boy!" And they did the health and welfare exam. And they go, wait a second, it's a girl. Wait a second, hold on a minute, let's figure that out. Probably not those exact words, but that was the gist of the conversation. On further examination discussions, the doctors agreed that the best thing to do would to surgically alter the baby as an infant and put them into one of those male or female categories. And based on what they could see, we think it's probably going to be a boy. We think everything's there. If it's a female, we probably have some more surgeries to do. And so that was agreed. In addition to considering, well, males have better opportunities in the United States of America. So Tim went through his life without knowing what conspired while he was born. But Tim was like anybody else. He didn't really like playing with the boys. He didn't like socializing in their subjects. Told his grandmother, "Why do boys made of slugs and snails and puppy dog tails, why can't boys also be made of sugar and spice?" And the grandmother said, "Yeah, I guess some boys are." Yeah, Tim wasn't just like all the other boys. Tim grew up in a society that didn't like that he was different. When he liked gymnastics or tumbling, especially the trampoline, he would go and play during the tumbling class. But the next class didn't have enough for the boys' class. They were going to have to merge it with the girls' class. And he finally reluctantly agreed, feeling like awkward, that the girls wouldn't want him. And the girls were fine with it. It was the mothers who complained about the young child not participating and looking at their young girls in their tights at the age of about 3. Going to a trip to JCPenney's, trying to figure out what clothes. He wasn't interested in clothes. None of the clothes was interesting. Finally, he saw something he did like. This pair of underwear because his mother wanted to get him underwear. He had superheroes on it. The girls' superheroes that he liked on TV. But he says, "No, you can't have those. That's girls' underwear." Same thing when he had to pick the favorite color at church. "Oh, pink or purple. No, you can't do that." And the way some of the people acted when he said that was very odd. So he learned that blue and green were the safe colors to answer. And story after story of this, not only just like the stereotypical things, but the socializing. Discussions of what the boys wanted to do. The trucks. Now, he didn't want to get the paint job messed up on his Tonka trucks. Adults at family gatherings, much more comfortable around the women. But that was uncomfortable because the women were uncomfortable with the boy being involved. So he'd go over to the boys. But the boys weren't really interesting and talked about stuff that he really didn't want to talk about. But you learn to fit in. You learn to fit in because people don't like it, people are uncomfortable around you, or they just plain bully you. That was Tim's life, as he describes it. Tim got older, gets into junior high, And the body starts acting. He starts getting cramps. Yeah, pain cramps, the lower abdomen, back, every few weeks or so. Some girls might recognize this as an irregular cycle. Pretty much the same thing. So goes into the doctor and they do scans. Yeah, he's got gynecomastia, which is breast tissue, but we probably should do more exams. But an interesting thing happened. The mom took the doctor out of the room for whatever reason, came back in. The doctor started talking, sent the mom back out to talk to the boy by himself. Oh, well, we need to really take a look at this. Do you want to be a boy? Well, what other choice is there? He was a boy. That was how he answered the questions. He didn't really understand and was nervous about always giving the wrong answer because, well, you give the wrong answer. If you say pink for your favorite color, no, the adults don't like that. So you had to give the right answer. So he said, yeah, he wanted to be a boy. And as he struggled with this, growing up, longing to be a girl, praying about it, wanting to have babies, finally realized that wasn't going to happen. Just said, well, you know what? I'm just going to understand women, and I'm going to be a part of their life and be the best guy for women that I can be. And so Tim went into high school that way. Mom switched doctors. New doctors come in. Still cramps are going on. So they take him in. They get worse. So fill in doctor for his. Comes and says, we can do something, and start asking it. And again, the weird thing, the mom takes the doctor out of the room. Doctor comes back in after a while talking to mom. And this time the doctor, with the mom in the room, asks again, well, do you want to be a boy? And Tim in his mind is thinking, can't you just get my mom out of the room? Because I'll answer you truthfully, but I can't do it with her there because I don't want to say the wrong thing and upset my mom. And so finally, yeah, well, I'm not really into all the same things that boys are. I'm kind of pick and choose. I'm kind of part boy, part girl in what I like. So, but yeah, I want to be a boy because he didn't want to get bullied otherwise. So the doctor talked him into, well, we can fix that. We're going to give you a shot, and basically coerced him into getting a testosterone shot at that point. See, they were trying to force the puberty for the sex that they had assigned him at birth. And Tim went home and cried that night, and his mom profusely apologized, thinking that he just didn't want to have the shot because he didn't like needles. Well, he didn't like needles, but he didn't want his body going that way. And Tim kind of started separating at this point from reality a little bit by bit. The hair on his body he hated. Different things growing up. He still didn't quite fit in, but wanted to do the best he could, be the best guy for girls possible. As time go on, Tim got married. Tim had a child. It was after this child was born was when his mother had this talk, and the mom said, well, I guess I chose right because you had a son, right? Tim was very upset, but young son, wife, you kind of put it away. Kind of forget about it as much as you can. Even though on a day-to-day, Tim says he fought every mannerism, everything he had to do to try to avoid looking feminine. That walk looks too girly. That hand gesture looks too girly. You can't do that. Constant. Every day. This was in addition to his ADHD that he was dealing with, as well as anxiety. Going through different jobs. Time goes on. Anxiety increases. We hit COVID. Now, a lot of us took some time during COVID to learn about things, and Tim was no exception. His body started changing, though, after getting into the counselors talking about anxiety. Chest started changing, butt started changing, various feminine things. Now, whether it was the hormones were off, whether that's from medication, the new doctor, having COVID-19 itself, or just his body rearing its time to do things. For whatever reason, the body started changing, and as he researched, he found out that some of the symptoms he's going through was much like a transgender individual going male to female. Well, he started learning a whole lot more about his life, about that life, and talking with the counselor and through the anxiety. But the anxiety increased to where it was impacting his job. One of the things he said with the counselor was, as he went through the body things and started going over the history, some of these things I've shared with you now. Well, how do I figure out my personality? And she said, well, that's a good thing is we change our personality as we get older. We try on different things. You just try it on like a piece of clothes. Does this fit me? Or does it not fit me? Let me try this. No, that doesn't work. So that's what Tim did, and Tim continued to do until the anxiety was coming to a boiling point. And Tim was struggling with the doctors to try to figure out what was going on with his body and struggling with all of this pressure and stuff in his mind that he finally separated the two. He says, I can't keep what I'm understanding from being male and female in my mind and the body. And he'd said long ago, I would never ever transition for a number of reasons, including I act in the community. The male roles need to be filled. That's something I enjoy. Why would I change that? But then one day while he's researching ADHD, a friend of his or online says this thing about autogender, one of these new gender terms that people are creating to help better describe themselves in communication and evolve the English language. Autogender is this concept of not being tied to your gender, but more tied to autism. And that may shock you, but what shocked Tim was exactly the opposite. People are tied to their gender? You see, Tim had been realizing that everything in his life that he'd done and all of his problems, or a lot of them, was because he kept trying to do what other people wanted him to do, what other people wanted him to be. And he realized that, wait, this applies to gender. Everything he knows about being male was because he was supposed to. That's what he was told to do. He says, wait, hold on. What if I was female? Let me try that on. Not expecting anything, except something really weird did happen. Just like that, all of that anxiety he'd been dealing with years, gone. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, gone. A tension from the top of his head down the back of his back that he didn't even realize was there. Gone. And he's like, whoa, hold on a second here. How did this happen? This can't be right. So he tried it on and off over the next few weeks. Suddenly coming to the realization that the only way his brain worked, for whatever reason, against everything he'd ever been taught, was when he thought of himself as a female. When he put that on and went that and let those anxieties and those tensions and stopped fighting himself, that was when everything worked. That was the only time anything worked. Nothing else in his life had ever fixed his problem. And Tim realized that he had to change. If he was going to keep his job, if he was going to keep his life, if he was going to go on and be a productive member of society, he had to accept this and switch, transition. So he came out to work. He gave a speech to Toastmasters where he described, and let's call him Kim at this point, and told his story. But see, Kim's life didn't stop at that speech. Even though he was out at work, he started talking to friends, family, select people. And as time went on, he started to get more comfortable. She started to understand things. She started to see society and what society was doing. You see, society seems to be filled with hate. And she realized that it wasn't enough just to talk to family. It wasn't enough to save herself. She had to tell her story to everyone that maybe some people could understand. And so what she did is she took a version of that speech she told in January, and she made this video that you're watching right now. That's right. This has been my story. Now, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions. I'm going to do some Ask Me Anything sessions. You can ask me just about any question. Most of them I will answer. But there's two I'll answer right now. And the first one is, what's next? And the answer is, they're taking it one day at a time and seeing how things go. And the second is one that a lot of people keep asking is, what is a woman? And the only thing I can say to that is my answer for what is a woman? I am.